Pete, I drive from Texas to Oklahoma to come visit, and you could tell when you get in Oklahoma because the Jeep goes from okay to wobble. Why do y'all charge so much, so many toll roads, and don't fix the roads? Screw jiu-jitsu. I want to know this first.
I don't make it out of my own little bubble, so I don't even know what toll roads you're talking about. I stay in my little bubble of Broken Arrow, and don't make it too far out of there.
Oy. So. No, that's become kind of like Tulsa's a really big hub for combat sports over the long haul. You've had like Dorothy Foss doing FCF there forever, started a lot of MMA careers. You got a lot of people that come out of your gym. I mean, people think about, you don't really think about Oklahoma really as like an MMA hub, but so many amazing wrestlers have wrestled Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Central Oklahoma,
right.
the Division I AA, like the NAI school. There's so many things out there that have made like that kind of a birthplace of this area's MMA scene.
I think demographics has a lot to do with it. When you're in a town where there's not really much to do, and I mean, kind of like here in Midland. I mean, you look at Midland, there's quite a few promising individuals that have come out of here, and if you think about even special operations, people going to the military, a lot of Navy SEALs have come out of this area.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that like hardworking, gritty, blue collar attitude out here for sure.
I used to joke around when I was getting my gym started in Tulsa. I was like, well, there's not much to do here. You just train jiu-jitsu, go out and get drunk, you know. So what are you gonna pick? And so a lot of people just got big into fighting and got big into jiu-jitsu eventually. We were very much of a kind of like a little bit of a fight town for a while, but now it's become saturated with jiu-jitsu. I mean, there's so much jiu-jitsu all over Tulsa, Broken Arrow area.
Well, I remember that you probably still can't go a weekend in the state of Oklahoma without there being an MMA fight in multiple locations.
There's usually Friday night fights, something going on, and usually maybe another town in Oklahoma will have a fight on a Saturday night. Yep. There's always something going on.
How is that little like development from MMA heavy, like a fight town, fight area, to jiu-jitsu? How was that kind of changed the demographic? I mean, I know what we see nowadays compared to what we used to see. What are you seeing out there as far as students?
I'm kind of like my own little bubble now, because since we've kind of pulled away from the MMA scene, some other schools are having a lot of promising fighters come out of there. And we also have Hunter Colvin that's supposed to start fighting again. But the amount of MMA fighters in each gym, they're a small percentage as it is. The same thing with high-level competitors, I mean, or even just competitors for that matter. But now that I've been out of the bubble from the MMA scene, our gym has grown for that matter. You know, just kind of extracting a lot of that MMA mindset and revolving more around family, jiu-jitsu, atmosphere. That's what has allowed my gym to grow.
That's awesome. No, I think it is hard to have that class, that section in a gym long term, unless you've got people that are willing to be involved in it long term, and that's just usually not the case with MMA guys. They're real fickle. Yeah, you know,
and a lot of them want it to be about them whenever they're training.
Yeah,
but then they'll be kind of flaky.
Yeah, if they're not fighting, they're not in the gym.
Exactly,
not helping the other guy grow, and then they want to go out and say, "Well, I need more better training partners." Well, you had an opportunity to grow training partners every time.
They become very selfish mindset. And that's the nice thing about jiu-jitsu though. And a lot of these grapplers, a lot of these individuals just come in because they want to roll, camaraderie, hang out with their friends, get some, get the sweat going and just, just get after it. And that's something that they can do throughout the week without worrying about getting punched in their skull into the ground or
it's hard to make plans for Friday night when you're going to get knocked out on Wednesday. You're like, I might not feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not fun. Now, you came up and had MMA fights and everything. Like this was pre Well, this is pre-unified rules and everything as well whenever you were fighting.
It was a lot of it's like, all right, we need a fighter,
Yeah.
and you in the crowd, if you want to fight, come on in, bare knuckle it, and could walk in there with wrestling shoes, and
I miss those days. I really do. They were entertaining.
they were
They were super entertaining. It was entertaining to compete in them. It was also entertaining to watch.
a lot of unsanctioned fights too. You'd see chickens running around, pigs, horses. Sometimes there was one MMA event that we went to. They literally put rope in between trees and made that their arena.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
That was I can't remember what town it was in Oklahoma, but yeah, good times.
That sounds like a Lawton thing to me.
It probably was. It may have been long.
Ardmore, Lawton.
Yeah.
Ugh, man. You've had. Let me think. You had a guy in the WEC, Mike Budnik.
Mike Budnik. Yeah.
And I remember him. From before that when he was like an inline skater. He was on all the videos and magazines and stuff. Yeah. And I saw him. I was on a treadmill once. One time. And the one time I was on a treadmill, one reason I got on it is because, all right, I'll at least watch these fights. I was watching WC and he was on there and I was like, that's the inline skating guy.
Yeah, he primarily came to my academy back when we were primarily a fight school. And every night it was train hard, party hard. It was not uncommon for us to have a bottle of Jack Daniels on the side of the mat, and in between rounds, taking a couple of shots or a swig, and then just getting in there and fighting again. It was some rough times, and then every night be something bloody, or somebody would be throwing up either from the alcohol or just from the hard training. But Mike came to us during those times, and we had a good amount of fighters at the time training at our facility. So he got into the WEC, fought a couple of times, and then eventually hung it up and opened up his own jiu-jitsu school. He had a school out in Illinois for a little bit.
Nice.
And then I think he moved to Florida, and now he's doing the whole crunch business.
Oh, wow.
So and that was one of the things that he was doing back then as his side gig, because
like managing those.
Yeah, as managing those, starting new gyms. Just like a lot of MMA fighters back then, you had to work a side gig and then support your hobby and your fighting career as well.
Yeah, that's something you've always seen fighters have to do that, but for some reason there's this disconnect where the young guys think that like, oh, I can't have a job. I just got to train full time. I said, no, you got to do both.
Yeah, especially eventually you want to support a family. And eventually when you just get banged up too much to where you can't be fighting, what's your backup plan?
Or are you going to be the guy that is your main source of income. So you're just going to be a jobber and fight every weekend and get beat.
I've seen so many washed up fighters, and they'll take a fight for like $500 on a weekend. And these guys who are fighting in Pride, fighting in the UFC, they'll take a fight on a weekend, $5,000, just so that they can make their next bills.
Yep.
And it's sad.
It's a rough way to make a living in the hurt business.
It is.
It's not good. Do you think that's on the other side of that, like having to work through and support the dreams? There was a time, and I feel like it's gone away, where you'd have students do the GoFundMe to get to a tournament. That to me was a little bit extra. Now, if it was a guy that's like, hey, I've got this going on, this going on, I really like to do this, illness, whatever, help me out. But I mostly saw a lot of like, hey, help me get to Pan Am's as a blue belt. It'd be my dream.
It is sickening to me to see that. Like,
I asked you that because you posted about that one time. You had a rant, and I was like, that's so
I went on a rant because a person was asking he was either a white belt or a blue belt, asking for had a GoFundMe going just so that he could go do a local tournament. He's not even asking to go to like Florida or California. I mean, this is like a small, itty bitty little small tournament in Oklahoma. And he's asking for a GoFundMe to help cover his expenses. And he's not even competing at a high level. But I think GoFundMe is great when there's a necessity for it, such as family members
Yeah.
suffering and dealing with things like that. I mean, you know,
I feel like it's not, that's what it's not,
no,
it's for.
no, it's not. It's not there for that.
That's what the lawnmower is there
You know,
for, right?
lawnmower, be a hard worker, stand on the corner for that matter.
Hey man, do what you got to do. Will Berimbolo for money. Ugh, gross. Nude. Ugh, not happening. Oh no, Pete, you got it in my head.
North south, north south.
um, yeah, that's just something. I don't know that people really get all the, like, there's a really weird place that you have to get when you own a school, when you teach classes. So there's some people that they run gyms, but they don't really teach.
Right.
You know, like to run the gym, to teach the classes, to have to be a point of contact for people. And then I think people don't really get how much you have to separate like the business money side from it, from the teaching side of it, so that you don't end up resenting going to work because you have so many stressful things happening when you go. There's so many things that require your attention.
Well, especially guys like you and I consider ourselves like the little guys, you know, when it comes to like other bigger gyms. But I like my little bubble, as I addressed earlier. I like keeping things somewhat in control, that I know that I don't have somebody possibly stealing money from me, or I don't have to rely on somebody else to bring in that income. You know,
Right.
like essentially your name is on the wall, so is mine. People come because of what we have produced, that environment that we've created. And there are some high level guys that, you know, they've made a piece of their name, but they'll show up, maybe teach a class, but then they have somebody running their office, cleaning the gym, teaching all the other classes, and there may be times that they don't even show up at all. But you know, good for them. You know, they've been able to make it. You know, but there's a lot that goes into the small business owner. Like I consider myself a small business owner when it comes to jujitsu. I don't consider myself a mega jujitsu school.
Right.
Although we do have a good amount of numbers, but I still consider myself a small school. So there's a lot that goes into our own personal life, as far as like taking care of our family, taking kids to school, getting a plan together for our kids to be taken care of, our spouses, opening up the gym, teaching classes, cleaning the mats, and then if you do have somebody on payroll, you know, taking care of that as well too. So, but there's a lot that goes into it, but it comes easy when you love what you do.
Yeah.
And there's not a day I wake up and I'm like, man, I don't feel like teaching today, or I don't feel like being there. Like, I look forward every day to showing up and turning on the lights and spending that time with my students. I absolutely love it.
It's pretty awesome. You know, they say, you know, if you do what you love, you're not having to work.
Right.
You know, that's real. I think, and plus what you're saying about having to kind of, there's that level where you're still like really involved in everything. You know, there's nothing that will bring you down to size after like choking a bunch of students, then having to clean the bathroom that they wrecked.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, you know, I still work for them.
Yeah. I know at some point, as I get older, I'll probably have to make some adjustments and actually do hire people to teach classes, and maybe I'll just run the admin and look and see, all right, this person's due for stripes, this person's due for that, this one's due for a promotion. Maybe we need to address this person's behavior and run this person out of the gym. So I know at some point I'll probably have to take a more administrative role, rather than being out there teaching and micromanaging things.
No, that's hard. I like just saying, this is your program, this is your class. What do you want me to just whatever you want to do? This is what I've been doing.
Yeah. Just keep
take from that if you want.
Yeah, just keep people on the mats though.
Yeah, really don't
run them off.
Yeah, don't be mean, or don't. If I'm mean and I run people off because I have a bad attitude, at least I can answer to me.
Don't do what I used to do. Such as throwing people out off the panel in the octagon, or drinking whiskey on the side of the mat.
Yeah, don't do that.
It was not quite the family environment back then.
What's that been like transitioning into away from fight, competition, and into the spot where you're at now? I mean, you've had some major surgeries.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of that, like, how much time are you spending on the mat when you're doing, are you rolling because you love it, or you rolling because you have to, or is it a little bit of that like push and pull?
It I roll when there's an odd number out, so I become the even number.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of like, if I don't need a roll, I won't roll. You
Yeah.
know, and if I'm the person that evens out the numbers on the mat, I'll jump in there and I'll roll around.
Yeah.
Um I'm not, so there are times that I won't be on the mat, but maybe once a week as far as grappling. And I spend the rest of the time just teaching and
Yeah.
walking around, fault checking people, insulting them a little bit,
It's always
giving
good.
them a hard
Always good.
time,
Getting
making
your
fun of
fitness.
them. Yeah, giving them the tough daddy love, you know. So, but no, it's so it's, yeah, with the injuries, the fact that I don't compete anymore. My main focus is my students and making sure that we're providing a service, a facility that everybody is going to enjoy. Everyone from a person that comes in and they're just wanting, let's figure this out, to the guys that are wanting to compete at a higher level, it's a hard balance sometimes because we'll have some students, they'll sometimes look for facilities that have other high level people, but then, that percentage is small in every school,
Hmm.
so a lot of them will find a time where they'll coordinate and meet up at either this gym or that gym, and then they'll get their tough rolls in.
Yeah.
So
No, that's good. You know, the way that jujitsu has kind of evolved at this point, do you kind of feel like it's circled back into being MMA based as far as positional? Like, you've seen the when you first started, everything was MMA based. Everything.
right,
Because you were gonna do bare knuckle, you're gonna do jujitsu because it was MMA. That's the only reason
correct,
we knew about it. And then now you see everybody's doing wrestle jitsu. You know,
yeah,
like that's kind of been the new thing. Like it went to like leg locks, wrestle jitsu is now kind of where it's staying. And then now everybody's doing like ecological. So everything is scenario based games and playing
right.
everything. Where do you feel your jujitsu is at in there? Like where do you fall in and where do you see it going?
We're having to adjust based on tournaments that our students intend on competing in and participating in, because
Because of rule set?
based on rule sets. Every tournament has a little bit of an adjustment to their
Mhm.
rules and how they do things. So you got one tournament that they'll focus primarily on riding it out during the match and then essentially trying to win by overtime.
Mhm.
And then you got in the one tournaments where they'll award primarily the person that is on top, even if the person can't pass their guard.
Right.
They're going to look at that person, the one that's doing the most
Dominant
work or the
position.
most dominant position. And then you got some tournaments where even if you take mount, you're stalling now.
Mhm.
I'm like, to me, that is some of the most absurd
You have to
mindsets.
continuously advance. Like, how do
Exactly.
I advance now? Yeah.
I mean, things would change obviously, and there are tournaments where, like the combat jujitsu, you take mount, and the person is just covering their
Mm.
body and doing like this, but I do open hand strikes.
Changes
It
everything.
changes everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't like some of the rules that some tournaments have, but we have to make adjustments,
Yeah.
and that's where you just can't leave it to a referee's decision. You should just ultimately you should go out there and try to win by submission, period. If you're doing a grappling tournament, and um,
Like you should be willing to make a
right,
mistake to try to
yeah,
finish something instead of waiting it out
yeah,
and go, "Oh, the ref robbed me." It's
exactly,
like, or,
yeah,
man, I
yeah,
tried and
yeah,
I just didn't get it.
yeah. And I've had students put their head down, and I'm like, well, did you win by submission? And they're like, no. It's like, well, okay, you got nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
That advantage means nothing to me. A different referee would have awarded the advantage maybe the other way. So if you're not decisively winning, um, don't complain about an advantage.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. With that, like that mentality of trying to like always finish, you are correct me if I'm wrong, you are a combative black belt under Matt Larson, right?
I am.
Okay.
So,
That's freaking awesome. Number one. I think that's cool. Um, because of all tell me what the requirements are.
so requirements to be a black belt under Matt Larson, the combatives program, you have to be a jiu-jitsu and black belt. And you also have to have a good background in firearms, and medical, in the medical area as well too, in order to be able to like put tourniquets on
Right.
people and first aid and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be a pretty well-rounded individual, and we're not talking about black belts that just grapple. We're talking about black belts that can actually fight.
Right.
You know, that understand the mindset of, okay, here's this position. How can I neutralize this situation?
Right.
And so in a way, you're kind of looking at it from a self-defense perspective, but you're also looking at it from a law enforcement perspective, and you're also looking at it from a military perspective. So, and Matt does a really good job at vetting out who he's going to have
Right.
under him, and say that they're black belts.
No, that's a really cool thing, and I like the, you know, you're always trying to finish the engagement.
Correct.
Like jiu-jitsu, striking, and whatever, firearms, edge weapon, always trying to end the engagement. To me, that's the coolest thing, and that's the thing where it. I guess if you take the, like, we're rolling around in our pajamas for a $2 medal, you know, if you take that part of it out, I mean, that's kind of, if you would allow yourself to not be pressured to win the trinket and understand you're investing in like winning a fight.
Right.
To me, that's the coolest part. And that's the part I think that really got students flustered during COVID.
Right.
Because, you know, like, people were closing gyms, can't go train. Oh, now we can train, but we can't touch each other. So now we can go to the gym. We can maybe touch each other if we have small groups. But we can't go compete. So they wasted a year, 18 months or whatever of competition time. You see people get out of jiu-jitsu or say, I don't like this as much anymore. Or I can't wait to compete so I can enjoy it again. It's like, you know, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for competition? Or are you doing it because this at some point down the road is going to lead to something greater?
Correct. Well, as far as COVID's concerned, it really didn't affect us. You know, we shut down for a month where we're at, and a month.
Yeah.
And while other states and other areas, they shut down for 6 months, a year. Some businesses, some jiu-jitsu schools actually shut down, period.
Yeah, never opened
and
up.
they never reopened back up. So, but when a lot of people do come in and walk into a jiu-jitsu gym, you know, some of them don't come in with the mindset of like, oh, I want to be a world-class athlete. You know, a lot of them come in and like, oh, let's figure this thing out. You know, I want to learn something where I just better myself. And in some cases they come in as like, well, you know, I'm tired of being a wuss and I want to be able to do something to protect my family. So, so the reasoning as to why people come into a gym sometimes changes while they're at the gym.
It's
and
scalable.
And a lot of it is sometimes based on how the gym operates and where the gym owner's priorities are at. You can go to some gyms and they're primarily focused on competition. You got some gyms that are just competition focused, and you got some that it's the small percentage. But and I would say that my academy is a small percentage of individuals that compete.
Yeah.
But the ones that do compete, they do extremely well. But even the ones that are not competing, they're the ones that make a difference for the ones that are competing.
Yeah.
You know, they're certainly an asset to the team. You know, you may never see them out there competing at all, but for them to get out on the mat every day, for them, that's their competition.
Yep. No, that's huge. So, you know, you've got with your background and everything, you've got a big veteran community where you're at. West Texas has always been really, really pro-veteran, pro-military. We're kind of in a spot where we get a lot of vets coming in because, hey, I know I need this, but then, oh man, I couldn't do it. I had too much anxiety, didn't feel good. I was tired. I was down. I was depressed. Well, does being here make you feel right? No, it makes, every time I come in and I leave, I feel better. So I just come because I felt like this. So how do you, in your role there, like, how do you combat that? And like, the benefits are just documented and huge, but it's like that whole idea of, hey, we know this works. You know this works. Why won't you do it? Because I don't feel like it. Do you feel better? Oh, yeah, I do, but I just don't, you know. How do you get past that?
Just got to tell them to stop being lazy.
Yeah.
You know, well.
See, I feel like I'm being like too much like, man, what, just do that. Help me help you. I feel like I'm Jerry Maguire, you know, in the locker room, in the bathroom, screaming on the phone. And I don't want to be pushy, but at the same time, it's like, man, I hate seeing somebody suffer or talk about
Yeah.
this, all this stuff's going on. Hey, does this make you feel better? Well, let's do that a little bit.
And that's the Christian in a lot of people. You know, Christians, they want to help, they want to serve, they want to make a difference, and it's our desire to want to try to help somebody out that's coming in and struggling, regardless if they're a veteran, law enforcement, or just somebody that experienced something traumatic when they were a child,
Yeah.
or as an adult, or even you know, they walked upon something and that just like gave them issues, you
Mm.
know, and getting on the mats, you know, you essentially, you know, you put that to the side. You're not really focusing on the trauma that you once witnessed. You're focusing on this person that's trying to smother you, somebody
Yeah.
that's trying to, you know, take your arm off, so to speak, in a controlled environment. But you know, so you're that's where your focus is at the time, and you find a sense of peace, and eventually, um, you know, you find that balance off the mats. But that's with somebody that's showing up on a regular basis,
Mhm.
and uh, but you know, although like being on the mats is certainly therapeutic, it certainly is not the answer to everything either. You know, we have to find our purpose. We have to find where, you know, what's our why in life
Yeah.
in regards to, am I a husband? Am I a father? Do I need to be able to provide for them, care for them? And if those are, or do I need to be like in this position of management and be successful there as a person that's leading other individuals? Or, you know, so I mean, we all have different purposes in life, and as long as we are trying to aim towards bettering ourselves to get to that purpose, it may be jujitsu or it may be something else,
Yeah.
but a person does definitely need to get engaged and go out there and do something rather than just sitting on their butt accomplishing nothing.
Do you, what is it that you think has made this like the two sides of kind of the lifestyle is nowadays where I remember when I was teaching as the lead defensive tactics instructor for the regional academy here, we would have people come in. You know, if you had 20, we'll just pull that number. You have 20 come in, say, hey, how many people raise your hand if you've ever been in a fight? And maybe half
Mhm,
raise their hand and say, all right, exclude anything where you were in high school or younger
mhm.
and people, it was a shove and then people came and separated you.
Right.
Exclude those two things. And then everybody's got their hand down. And like that is now that's the swath of people that's going to be
Yeah.
protecting you, that next group. And I look and I hear people talk about all the time like guys are not taking that protector role. They're not ever doing anything physical or getting into trouble, like things that you might think of
Right.
as like getting getting yourself wrapped around the idea of being a grown man and have a responsibility and getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
It just does not seem like a thing anymore. But also, it seems like that's what's driving a lot of students to come into jujitsu now because they go, "Man, I was at the bar with my wife, and
Mhm.
dude bumped into me, and I realized, oh my god, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get my ass whooped if this guy says anything to me. Like I really don't know what to do, you know." Or guys say, I had my like women a lot. Like I was in a parking lot and I saw this guy and he was looking at me and he followed me to my car and a hair stood up on the
Mhm.
back of my neck and my I got goosebumps and everything, freaked me out. Turned around, he was gone. I didn't know where he went, but it made me just feel really unsafe. Let me talk about classes.
Yeah.
You come in, hey, we're gonna make you uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, this is too uncomfortable. It's like, ugh.
I know that for men, and I'm speaking obviously as a dude, you know, because it's in our DNA, and most men have it in them to want to bash things. You know, it's just it's in our nature. You know, it's as young men, we, you know, if you're given a certain amount of toys, even Legos for that matter, you find a way to make Legos explode, and you're using it to like chuck it at your buddy or
Yeah.
something. And as opposed to the ladies, you know, they'll find a way to make it look all nice and
Yeah.
neat and pretty. And growing up, and you probably grew up the same way, where we are always in some form of altercation as kids, and and it was okay back then. It was like, well, did you stand up for yourself?
Right.
And it was encouraged. Like if somebody picked on you, it was encouraged to fight back. And I think now, as the generations have changed and society has gone a little bit softer, um, it's almost like, oh, don't do that. That's wrong.
Stay out of their bubble,
Stay out,
personal space,
stay out.
hands to yourself.
And to the point where men just don't know how to fight anymore. So that desire for that DNA to come out in them, they're craving it. They're looking for it. It's something that they're urging for.
That's probably where you see a lot of dudes are depressed.
Yeah.
What's missing? Well, I've got a job, I've got a wife, I've got this, I got this. I don't know why I feel like this. It's like, well,
go out there and do something manly.
Yeah.
So it's getting your hands dirty.
Go out there and roll around with sweaty dudes. Man.
Get in my guard. Get in my guard.
We gotta raise the testosterone in this building.
Exactly.
Come here and play Daily Hiva with me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds great.
But if you think about it, even back during the Roman Empire, a lot of those manly men fought almost in nothing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a fun time.
No.
It sounds like we're just get up is a really good idea.
Right.
That's funny. Do you feel like jiu-jitsu has kind of hit its 1980s karate days, or is it going to be ready to start hitting a decline? Is there going to be something else?
I think some schools are.
Mm-hmm.
I think some, and when I say schools, some academies, some jiu-jitsu academies are hitting that watering down process.
Mm.
And then there are some that are elevating their level, and a lot of it comes down to what do you want your academy to be known as?
Yeah.
And, we talk about legacy sometimes, and what type of legacy do you want your school to have? You want your school to be known as a belt factory, or you want it to be known as a school where it is hard to get that black belt or even that blue belt for that matter. So I'd rather my school to be known as that tough school.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a belt there, and of course, yeah, we may not be grappling at the level at some of the most elite people, so to speak, but I like to think that every one of the individuals that have come up in the last couple of years at my academy, they have been vetted by their character, their grappling, their knowledge base. All those things are being looked at. And, at my academy, and you're aware of this, we have a vetting process when somebody is eligible for blue belt, purple, brown, or black. A person no longer has to just impress me and rub elbows with me and kiss my butt, so to speak. They have to convince 30 other black belts that they are ready to rise up to that next belt rank.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that any of these 30 plus black belts sees, either, oh man, this guy is rolling like really maliciously, out of control, like a spaz, or
rough with females,
rough with
white belts, new people,
or just lays there,
Yeah.
or we saw this person out in public and they were intoxicated, or they were being rude to a waitress, their knowledge base in jiu-jitsu is very one-dimensional. They have not evolved their game. So we got 30 plus black belts that see that now.
Yeah.
And it's not just me seeing this one person and that person convincing me. So I like to think that we have a pretty good vetting process when we rank people up. And we've done this here in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Because I've had people that I've put a black belt around their waist that they have fooled me, and it sucks. But they say the right things and they convince you that, they convince you that they're the one, or they have what it takes.
It's you get a lot of those people that they have you fooled until they don't get something the way they want it one time,
and then they bounce.
Like, whoa!
Or they start
weird.
talking smack behind your back.
Yeah,
one or the other.
That's weird. I've donated a lot of time and money and energy and emotion to some people. They just like, You said no? You're correcting me?
Yeah.
You're a piece of crap. I'm out. It's like, okay, I'm a
Yeah.
piece of crap. Okay, parent,
Yeah.
got it. It's a rough deal. We've done that with the vetting of people like for belts, or we'll say it like this: I will message all the other black belts and brown
Right.
belts,
Good.
people that are like dropping in coach and stuff. Hey, what do you think? Who's should be coming up for this? We got these guys that seem like they're ready for the next
Yeah.
belt. And just so everybody knows, like I never say no on any of them. Usually Chip and Jeremy say no on everybody. That's the only two. Just
Good.
for anybody paying attention.
Well, and there are some people that will go to other gyms just because it is easier to get a belt at another place. I don't want my school to be known as that school.
Yeah.
So
I think when you compromise that for belts, your level or your expectations for belts, what you got to look at is that's going to have a ripple effect potentially for generations of people, of students, because I taught this guy who is now a black belt who doesn't know how to do this, or is an asshole or whatever.
Yeah.
And then now that's going to affect if he like, oh, I hope this guy doesn't open a school.
Yeah.
It affects everybody.
I've seen people rank all the way up to black belt that grapple like crap, that can't grapple. You know, that all they've done is curriculum base, show that they can demonstrate the techniques on a curriculum.
Yeah.
But they cannot put it together when it's an actual fight.
Yeah, that's was like studying for the test in high school.
Right.
Like I remember it all. I know all the questions and the answers to those questions, but as soon as I leave that room, that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not fun. Do you think you're going to get to a point with people that you are like your vision for jiu-jitsu doesn't align anymore with teaching all the time, being that kind of environment, maybe like traveling more to teach something? Because you see a lot of guys that they get into, they basically just get over the idea of having a school and the day-to-day, the grind on that, and go, I'm just going to sell that and go do other things. You see that? I've seen that with a lot of guys over the last couple of years, especially, and it might be because of the way the economy is. It's just too much to run a building.
There's some famous guys that have really made a name for themselves. They don't have schools.
Well, Jeff Glover's one. Yeah, he's like the traveling substitute teacher.
They just have affiliates. Some of them are traveling all the time to teach, or you also got some that just have affiliates. As I was saying earlier, you know, I know at some point I'm going to have to shift gears.
Yeah.
But when I do shift gears, I want to make sure I have the right people in place to be running classes, running the gym. You know, I hope I'm still able to stick around and do things a decade from now. But, you know, I'm also a different person from when I was a decade ago.
Right.
And I'm probably going to be a very different person 10 years from now, and then 10 years from that. So,
no, that's fair.
You know, we all evolve. You know, if not, I'd still be behaving like that 10-year-old child. So,
still be having Jack Daniels at MMA practice.
Exactly.
That's funny. God, I can't believe doing that.
Yeah. Oh, it was rough. I think I had some video at some point of one of the guys taking a shot, going out there, grappling, throwing up, and then taking another shot.
Yeah, I'll skip that.
Yeah, that was, like I said, I'm glad we evolved from that. But yeah, we were known quite a bit as a school, a fight school with a drinking problem.
God.
And we certainly did have a drinking problem.
A bar with a fighting problem or something. Oh man.
It didn't help that there was a liquor store right next door to my old school.
Oh, made it easy. Guys, we're done with practice. Yeah. That's funny. What's your so as you're running school, coaching, what are your favorite excuses why I don't train?
Man. When people say they can't afford it, that is an excuse that they can't use, because the individuals that say they can't afford it because they're going through some hard times, you know, we usually bend the knee, we let them train.
I do the same.
But I got some that will sit there and say that they have a little bit of a boo-boo. And yeah, you have to evaluate some of these boo-boos. Mm-hmm. But I come from a community where we kept on working if we were hurt. It didn't matter. You know, it's if you had a jacked up knee, you still put on your 65-pound ruck and you still You still marched.
Yeah.
You know, you still picked up your weapon system and you went. If you had a runny nose, I mean, and granted, you know, if somebody is under the weather, I don't want that spreading.
Oh, I don't either.
Um, but some of the lamest ones are some of the meniscal injuries.
Yeah.
That might you can adjust. You can work through that. You can man up. You know, and suck it up a little bit. I mean,
you have people that oh man, I had an injury, I got it fixed. Now I'm just scared about it getting re-injured.
Yeah.
You know, do you like? Oh, I love this. Okay, so what do you do? What did you like? Well, I like the idea of knowing how to defend myself. Okay, so you're not gonna want to do that anymore. Well, no, I don't want to hurt my shoulders. Like, so when you get mugged, my shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll choose someone else. That's
you know, and the thing that people fail to recognize, and this is just their own ego as to why they're not on the mat. They feel that every time they hit the mats, it has to be a death roll.
right. Perfect. Everything has to be
It
perfect.
doesn't have to be. Like you can start from a bad spot. You can ask your training partner, "Can we start from this position?" The worst excuses, the ones that just drive me nuts, are the people that are in a job that requires them to know how to fight.
Yeah.
Such if you're law enforcement, military, you should not go into law enforcement or into the military not having a fighter mindset. You should know how to fight.
But I've got a gun, Pete.
But I got a gun, yeah. And to say, well, I don't want to get hurt because of whatever reason, you know, it's like you know, I need to be able to do my job as a police officer. I was like, well, you know, you're not going to be able to do it 6 feet under.
Yeah.
Just because you don't know how to fight, or you fold in the moment of chaos, you know.
No, it's huge that people don't understand the world's just going to meet you wherever your feet are.
Yep.
Like whatever shape you're in, you know, I got to get in shape first. It's like, well, number one, if you were going to do that, you'd have done it. You've had all this time. And then now on top of that, if we're talking about self-defense, we're talking about anything else. I mean, this is your starting point.
Have you seen an increase in clientele of essentially like young teenage boys?
Yes.
That come from broken families.
So not from broken families. However, I'm seeing a lot of teenage boys and girls. I've seen a lot of females training in the gym right now. And I think I tell myself, it makes me laugh. I tell myself that like teenage girls and adult females that are joining the gym at like a much more increased rate. I think they see clips of dudes fighting on the internet, like, oh my God, I can't rely on boyfriend, husband, brother. So I see a lot of that. And I think there's a lot of parents that, with the teenage boys, I see more of them like getting involved because I need my kid to be tough and he's not tough.
Yeah. Mad respect to the single moms out there raising young men.
Yeah.
You know, I know it's probably a tough role for them to find that balance. But that's one of the things I've seen a lot lately is teenage boys coming in, being raised by their mom, and is primarily just with their mom.
Yeah.
They rarely ever see their father, which is sad. And they're essentially bringing them to the gym so that these young teenagers, these young boys can essentially find other role models, men that they can you know, elevate to, or gravitate to. And the same thing with like what you were saying as far as like the females that have been coming in. The females have been coming in. It's they're essentially looking for a place where they feel that they can learn something to be protected, or so that they can protect themselves.
No, that's huge. I think me personally, I feel like jiu-jitsu, I mean, depending on the way things go over the next couple of years, that could be the entire direction of combat sports, really, is just everybody being like, I have to defend myself because the judges and attorneys in the state aren't going to do it. The cops can't do it because there's not enough of them. They're not getting any training, you know, like I think that's kind of really where it's going.
We recently saw a thing on social media about, is it BJJ Europe or BJJ League, talking about some guy out in the street beats up karate black belt. Did you see that one?
Yes, I've seen that.
And and that just brings a bad name to karate in general as well too. But I mean, because there are some karate schools that are very watered down,
Oh yeah.
and then you got some that are brought up old school ways where they're still
Oh
punching
no, they're
bricks.
cracking each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
and because you get into a fist fight with some of those guys, they might disrupt your orbital bone.
Yeah.
They're gonna put your eye out of
Gonna kick
socket.
you in the liver.
Yeah,
That's what's gonna
and so,
happen.
and I've known some tough karate guys. So
I think the karate thing was so like I don't know. There's definitely that whole like
but I guarantee you that article was not from one of these tough karate schools.
but where are they?
It was a
Which one? Who are they? Where are the tough ones?
Yeah,
That's the hard
yeah.
part to figure out.
Yep.
That was I remember when I first started doing like we would go on Friday nights. There's a guy named Chris Bryan's American Taekwondo. It was on Big Spring Street here in Midland. Friday nights they had free sparring, and I would go in there because I was fighting. I was doing cage fights at that point in New Mexico and Louisiana and stuff. And I needed to get sparring in, and I was like, man, I don't know any striking. I don't know any kickboxing. This place says they do it. Go in there, and those dudes can't kick me in the leg, can't punch me in the face. Can't. So what can I do? You can't grab me. What can I do? I can stand there and get spinning back kicks. So I broke the rules. I grab them, take them down.
Yeah.
I had a buddy get knocked
That's a
out
real
there.
fight.
Yeah, but I mean, that was to me was the first like signal of oh my gosh, this is fake. This isn't real.
Yeah.
And there's Raymond Daniels and there's Michael Venom Page and there's Machida. But I mean, there's Wonder Boy Thompson, but there's not a lot of people like that out there.
I think a karate school that is ran properly is a good foundation to get a child into martial arts, understand the discipline, the structure of things. But then after that, the parents have to get real.
Yeah.
And say, well, we're just throwing our money away. They're not learning what they need to be learning in order to really truly protect themselves.
I mean, I've never seen anybody like horse stance roof block in a street fight ever. I might not be watching the right street fights. That could be the thing, but I've never seen it.
No.
But that to me was kind of the big thing when I was coming up. I was like, so maybe I shouldn't even worry about utilizing like incorporating this. I kind of don't need it, but because it wasn't the sauce, it wasn't the good stuff.
Front kick, jab, close the distance.
Yeah,
clinch up, take him down.
Sound like old Hicks and Gracie videos. Gracie in action.
Right.
What are you excited for coming up for jiu-jitsu for you, for your academy, for your region?
I've been working with a couple of kids here in the last couple of years, which I kind of detached myself from teaching kids quite some time ago. But in the last,
because you don't want to have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, pretty much. I already have 2 boys, so why do I want to work with other kids, right? So no, it's but no, in reality, it's I've been working with 9 to 12-year-olds. I've had my own personal group for the last 3 years, and to see what some of these 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds are doing now, jiu-jitsu wise, I can't wait to see what they're going to be doing when they're 16, 17, 18 years old. It's insane.
Crazy.
And I mean, they're like my little, I call them my booger squad because they all wear green uniforms.
Awesome.
But they're truly a joy to work with. And I never thought I'd say that about working with kids, because there are some kids you're like, oh God, I'm just, let me show you how to do a choke.
Yeah, right.
And let's work on this for a little bit and just spend that time choking that child.
Kids are hard. I mean, but I think what's cool is nowadays the level of jiu-jitsu that we have, that we can offer to students, that we can offer to kids classes. There's kids in those kids classes nowadays that are getting better jiu-jitsu than we got in 2000.
100%.
Like way better jiu-jitsu.
I mean, how many schools do you see, the top black belt in the academy working with the kids?
Not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
You'll see a junior black belt, or
see a bunch of volunteer
blue,
teenagers,
purple belts, teenagers.
That's scary.
It's which at our, I'm just very blessed to have the volunteers that we have, because for each one of our groups, we have 1 black belt for each one of those
That's
groups. And some of these black belts are seasoned black belts, and all of them have an assistant with them, which is usually a blue belt or a purple belt.
Right.
So, and they're broken down into groups of 12 to 16 kids. So these 12 to 16 kids are getting their one-on-one attention with a first degree, second degree black belt or black belt and a blue purple belt.
Yeah.
You know, and that's their group. And so to see these kids grow and get that one-on-one attention, as opposed to back in the day, it would be maybe one instructor or two instructors
Yeah.
teaching 40 kids at a time.
And then the ones that are going to get good will get good
Oh,
no
yeah.
matter what,
Yeah.
and everybody else.
And then you got the ones scratching the wall
Yeah.
or you know, licking the window.
chewing their toenails.
Oh yeah.
That's the one for kids classes. I'm just like, whoa, bro,
Well,
let's not do that.
Just triangle yourself instead.
Yeah, a lot. I don't get it. Yeah,
But no, like my burger squad, I'm certainly blessed with those kids because they come in, they're driven, they're focused, they have a desire to learn and grow and learn jujitsu and go out there and compete as well too, and to put it to the test. You know, I'm not working with kids that are just coming in. You know, they actually want to put it to the test.
I have asked you and said, Pete, I want to do jiu-jitsu, but I'm just not sure I want to do it. What is your ultimate, like, what's your pitch? What's your Alec Baldwin, Glengarry Glen Ross? What's your ABC?
That you want to do jujitsu, but you're afraid of doing jujitsu.
I don't know. It makes me nervous, Pete. There's so many people. I don't want to suck. Oh God, I'm going to suck at it.
I don't know why we're in the same room together, if that's the case.
Dang. Jeez. What do you say to people?
I tell them to come try it out, you know, because we actually have a fundamentals class where they can come and just try it out. They're not even going to really break a sweat. They're just going to drill the move. I would recommend parents that have their kids in jiu-jitsu to do that class.
Yeah.
Just so that they can understand what their kids are going through, what their kids are learning, not living vicariously through their children, you know.
And yelling instructions that don't
exactly
make any sense,
You know,
that are not applicable.
You know, and then you have the supportive parents that, you know, I got the supportive parents that we have a good communication. They're like, they'll ask, hey, what can we be doing to help my kid out a little bit more, you know? So, but they're not willing to get on the mats, and that's fine, you know, and that's okay. But, you know, sometimes you have to ask, you just have to truly be a big brother and be like, dude, like, stop being a coward. Like, just stop being a coward. How are you going to protect your family? You know, if somebody came and attacked you or attacked your wife, you know, do you expect your wife to protect you? You know, or your child that's in class to do jujitsu.
You're just kicking dudes in the gut.
Nah, it's you know, men are put on this earth to be warriors, to be men, to be fighters. You know, some of them will go and gather crops, but most men, we have it in us to be fighters, and a person should question their manhood and their courage, their commitment to their family. You know, if they're not willing to go out there and do something that's a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, now I'm going to say it and said Pete told me to say this. Don't be a coward, bro. I'm gonna put my own spin on it and say, bro, homie,
dude.
Homie, don't be lame. That's what I'll say.
Don't be a puss.
God,
some people need to hear it.
Not wrong. A lot of people need to hear it.
Yeah.
It's good to give them some perspective.
Yes,
from someone that can beat you up.
And honestly, I don't want to have clientele like that.
No,
I don't want to have a weak, soft individual that was born a man but doesn't conduct themselves accordingly.
I think it's hard to care about these people's goals more than they do. That's the can't believe you're doing this, bro.
I want clientele that the younger kids can look up to and be like, I want to be like that dude.
That's awesome.
You know, that's the clientele that I want. Yeah. Rise up.
I love it. That's fun. Ready to go do some jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.